Ladies and gentlemen, we have some major breaking news tonight. That's right, Trump is in tears as Kentucky just revolted in a massive way. That's right, Trump is finally faced with the consequences of his toxic policy. How's it going, everybody? Hunter Avalone here with Occupy Democrats. Welcome back to another video. Now, there are so many reasons why people are revolting, not only against Trump, but against Republicans entirely. Even Republicans are angry at Republicans.
And now we're sitting here and we're listening to nonsense about health care, where my colleagues on the other side of the aisle sit here saying, well, you guys aren't doing anything about the massive expensive cost of health care. Why do you think it's expensive? Because you literally cut a deal with insurance companies to run health care. You think that's going to run wild? Yeah. That's why they have 2,000% profit increases, and the American people can't afford to go to the doctor of their choice while we enrich insurance companies. And yet Republicans will complain about it, and then they'll offer milquetoast garbage like we're offering this week, and then go home at Christmas and say, look at what we're doing. We're campaigning on reducing health care. Well, congratulations. At some point, people will look at this body and say, maybe we should get rid of all 435 members of the House and all 100 members of the Senate and start over. Because Congress is literally failing the American people. I yield back.
And it doesn't stop there. Other Republicans have some very harsh words for Donald Trump.
Son, you were among several Republicans who criticized President Trump's response, suggesting Reiner's death stemmed from, quote, Trump derangement syndrome. I want to play what Speaker Mike Johnson said. Let's watch.
Mr. Speaker, do you condemn Trump's post about Rob Ryan?
What are your thoughts? The Speaker's in a tough spot, and he is right. The president gives plenty of ammo out there for people to critique. He has a lack of self-control and not enough restraint on some of the things he says, and his comments on Reiner are case in point. And he got a 3-seat majority. I understand the Speaker's in a tough spot, but we should have moral clarity here. What the president said was wrong. And you got to have a little bit of decency. Here's a guy that was murdered, stabbed to death, his throat slit, his wife, probably by his son. We don't know for sure. Mm-hmm. That's a very sad thing, and to gloat over it and to make the comments that the president said, it's not presidential. And I just think there's a big yearning in our country right now for more decency, self-control, some restraint, and a little more normalcy. And what we saw with that response, it's not an appropriate comment from a president.
We've heard that same sentence.
But now for our breaking story. That's right, Kentucky just dealt Trump a massive blow. So pop your champagne bottles and take a look at this. MAGA world is in absolute tears tonight after Kentucky voters just delivered a humiliating revolt against Donald Trump in a major special election. Democrats didn't just win, they obliterated Republicans in Kentucky State Senate District 37, a seat Republicans thought they could seriously compete for after Trump barely held ground there in 2024. To put this in perspective, Kamala Harris only won this district by 5 points in the presidential election. MAGA believed that meant momentum. Instead, voters sent them a message that echoed nationwide. Democratic candidate Gary Clemens crushed Republican Calvin Leach, winning by a staggering 72.6% to 25.1%. This wasn't close. This wasn't competitive. It was a political wipeout. This race was supposed to be tight. Republicans openly hoped to flip the seat after the narrow presidential margins. Instead, Trump's brand once again proved toxic, especially as voter frustration with his leadership and the economy continues to grow. And this isn't happening in isolation. Democrats have now overperformed again and again in special elections across the country, from Virginia and New Jersey to Georgia and Pennsylvania, even forcing Republicans to sweat in deep red gerrymandered districts they normally cruise through. The pattern is clear. When Trump's influence is on the line, voters are rejecting MAGA at the ballot box. And tonight, Kentucky confirmed that the so-called red wave comeback is pure fantasy. For Republicans heading into 2026, this is the nightmare scenario, and it's getting worse by the week. Thanks so much for watching. Please click that like button and subscribe to Occupy Democrats so that you can stay informed and help us stop Donald Trump.